What I'm going to do is take a bit of what Pam said, which is, why an evaluator is so important, and kind of make a broad stroke and give you like a speed round of program evaluation really fast and try to address some of the questions that you have. But really talking about designing the plan. So just a broad stroke. And like Pam, I'm a fan of Chris Lessy from freshspectrum.com. And so that's kind of my theme, is I love comics and funny things. So throughout this, we'll use comics from Chris Lessy. That's how you say his last name. So I love this one. This is our evaluator. Every time she collects data, it will help us remember what we said and what we were going to do in the first place. So I think that's pretty funny. And so we'll hit these 5 things. Really what we're concentrating on is developing a return on investment. So we have our wonderful, I saw some nodding. So we have our NSF folks here and Gregory, and they really want us to see things be successful, right? Raise your hand if you've ever wanted your project to fail. Oh, there you go. Michael, maybe. So we don't want it to fail. We want it to do well. We want to make our NSF happy, but we put a lot of time and investment in it. We want good things. So we'll talk about a little quick definition like Pam did about what is evaluation. When do we want to start it? And that was mentioned too this morning. Program mapping, talking about theory of change and logic model. Stakeholders, defining them, making sure we're engaging in an effective way. Writing evaluation questions, and we'll talk a little bit about differences between research and evaluation, that gray area. And then sharing results. So here we go. I have to stand over here, I think. So this is similar to the definition that Pam gave you. What is program evaluation? A systematic way for collecting, analyzing, and using information to answer questions about projects and programs. See, I put both of them in there. You see how I'm bio-bus lady, right? So I wouldn't get tripped up. I put them both in there. So here's another cartoon. I can't tell you how valuable your program is. And the evaluator says, I can. So are we contributing to research for the greater good, or are we evaluating a project? So we'll talk about that. When's the right time to get started? Pam said in the beginning, that's right. So what kind of evaluation do you need? And this lady says our 3-year project is coming to an end. We were told we need an evaluation. What kind is that? So we just mentioned that, right? We don't really want that to happen. We want to begin with the end in mind. See, Pam and I share a piece of our brain. We want to begin with the end in mind. We want to consider these things at the beginning in the program development. What is it that we want to accomplish, and what steps will we take to get there? And specifically, how will we measure success? So how are we going to measure those outcomes? And so one way we can do that is with a map. And this is one type. So one type of mapping a program is the theory of change model. We'll talk about that a little bit too, but another is a logic model. So this is just a super simple one, and I'll give an example project afterwards. So we have our situation, whatever that is, what we want to solve. What we plan to invest, our inputs, and the activities, what is it that we're going to do, and who are we going to do that with, and then what do we hope will happen? What are some of our goals? We can have short-term, intermediate, long-term outcomes that we're going to measure, and then how will those broaden into our goals? So this is just one type of program mapping. And like I said, when I was reading what you sent in the pre-survey, we have the broad spectrum here. Never mapped a program, or have done many. So I'll do it. I thought we could talk through an example project. So this was a project that I worked with for a couple of years. It's kind of near and dear to my heart. It's a food safety curriculum program for middle school students. It's a STEM project, and they have curriculum materials for 7 days worth of lessons: math, science, social studies, language arts. The idea is for teachers to teach in an interdisciplinary way about food safety in all the subject areas. They offer free training to teachers. They're in 12 states. Over 45,000 students last year used hands-on curriculum. And so their problem was they had this great grant to offer these materials free, professional development for teachers free. But of course, guess what was happening? What'd you say? Yes, they're having trouble getting the word out, right? So they go to conferences and they talk about it, and whatever teachers were at the conference, they go back to the principal and say, hey, I can get some free stuff if I email these people. Yeah, what else do you think was happening maybe to them after about 5 years or so? Yeah, they were running out of money. So they had gotten some foundation support from the Grocery Manufacturers Association, but they wanted to keep the money coming in and they wanted to do more things. And so they really wanted to get the word out and they wanted to show that they were making an impact. So what they decided they would like to do was do a social media campaign. So that's kind of where I came in. So I surveyed the teachers and asked them what social media things they use, and they thought, well, maybe if we can engage teachers beyond that professional development that we do, they'll keep wanting to get the free curriculum and materials every year. And so maybe if we have a website where we can post updates to our lesson plans, then they could download them whenever they wanted to. Maybe if we had videos on how to do the lessons, that might work too, because after that one professional development, maybe they forgot how to set up a Petri dish, an agar plate. So this was their plan. Their situation was simply they wanted to increase the number of participating schools through engagement in social media. They wanted to begin to track those things. So they knew we were going to set up a Facebook account, a Twitter account, and we're going to have some graduate students make some YouTube videos about their curriculum. And then the activities they were going to do is start using the social media platforms they were starting, and they were going to update their curriculum to fit new state and national guidelines, and they were going to put those on the website for free downloads. And then basically in the long term, what they wanted to have happen was they wanted to retain the teachers in the program by causing interaction in social media. So that's just a simple logic model example. There are some pros and cons to logic models, and I think maybe, Michael, you had some questions about logic models and theory of change models or conceptual design. So it is a good time to talk about them after looking at one. So what's great about logic models is it can link outcomes and activities to explain what's happened. Do we reach our desired outcomes? And it requires justification at each stage, some evidence. It is a causal model. Some cons, though, are that it doesn't always identify those indicators, so those finer points. Like I put this picture here because it makes me think of an after-school reading program that I was evaluating one time, similar to Pam's after-school STEM program. So they were reading with students after school. Teachers were getting paid a little bit extra to stay after and do these reading clubs. So if we think about it in terms of a logic model, we could see that more students were staying after school. And we could see that the students that were going to the after-school reading program, their reading scores were going up. But we couldn't get at those finer details of, well, are some of those students that are going 3 days a week jumping a little bit more than the ones that are going 2 days a week? So those are things that we really want to think about and concentrate on. Maybe a different model would give us a better plan for getting at those finer details. Maybe a theory of change model. And so this is just a sample theory of change model. And like Pam was saying, because we share a brain, the evaluation happens in the arrows. So we're going to show the activities. We're going to explain the why in the arrows. Why do we anticipate this happening? Why is this happening? And then all the outcomes that must be measured. As you go up, you're making achievements along the way going up. And so I also put this one in. So Pam talked about this quite a bit. So we'll just take a flash look. So it could be really fancy and big like that, or it could be a little bit simpler. So I took the hands-on classroom and put it into a what might be a theory of change model that could work with them. And this is super simple. And I said, okay, the big thing that we want to have happen is we want to increase online engagement and participation in the hands-on classroom program, right? That's what we want to have happen. And so some challenges they had was, well, they're not able to continue to engage the teachers. They might order the stuff and fall off the radar. They shoot them an email, but that wasn't enough. So they're going to roll out social media platforms. They're going to do some daily posting. They're going to, in the intermediate outcomes, they're going to pretty much be able to see right away if people are liking and sharing their stuff. And then they're hoping that their followers to their page will increase and that they'll continue to use the curriculum because it will be more visible to them. And they'll become regulars, and shipments will increase, and curriculum downloads will go crazy, and life will be good. And they, and they can show to their funding agency, look how great an impact we're making. Okay, so pros and cons of theory of change models. I love this cartoon. It says, we did it! We saved the children. Their hands are clean. There's no foodborne illness. No, 1 million views on YouTube. So, pros. It graphically illustrates your program, right? Gives you a picture, sometimes super fancy. It keeps stakeholders clearly in identifiable components. Remember how Pam said that, let me go back. It takes a look at different groups. We have students and faculty, summer programs. It's a bit more visible that way. Clearly defined stakeholder components. Here are some cons. They take some time to make. And they have a shorter history than logic models. Logic models have been around since the dinosaurs, right? Or maybe not quite that. But they're fairly new and not as well known. And to be honest, when we do proposals for a NISER and someone needs a neat little graphic to go in their proposal, oftentimes it can be a logic model. But like Lou was saying, multiple models work very well in showing different information. I think they're just newer. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, short history meaning just newer. Yes, I'm sorry. Yes. Okay. So now that we've mapped everything out, right, we've got a plan. We want to think about who our stakeholders are. So this cartoon is kind of funny. This one was on our webinar as well. So that's 8 votes for engaging the stakeholders and only 1 against. You want to engage your stakeholders. Why would you want to do that? What'd you say? Yeah, for perspective, that's right. I'm thinking a little bit, too, about what Gabby was saying about how, what if you don't know the content that well, right? Yeah, so they give us information. It's their project, after all. And the funding agency, they're a stakeholder, right? Anything else? Did you want to say something?
No, I was just going to say they are going to benefit from it, too.
Absolutely, right? Because
you want to know what they think.
yeah, none of us said we wanted our project to fail. So, yeah. So identify stakeholders to maximize your input, sustainability, and growth. So without that collaboration, I think it was you that said collaboration. Okay, and when engaging your stakeholders, it needs to really mean something to them because you don't ever want this to happen. You don't ever want them to look at it and say, this doesn't apply. So we'll talk about ways in which we can map out our stakeholders to make sure that we are engaging them in the project. So, neat little chart. We'll talk about this in more detail in the second break session today. But we have, as the importance in the project goes up and the involvement in the project goes up, we need to have more communication and invest more closely. And I put hands-on in here as an example. So the hands-on classrooms, just for an example. Notice Susan, the Keep Satisfied box. Funding agency and foundation support. Why do we care about keeping them satisfied? That's a return on investment, right? They want to know they have a good return on investment. The people they were wanting to manage closely because they have high involvement in the project and high importance are the teachers that are using it, the hands-on staff, and the graduate students that were filming all those YouTube videos. If we didn't ever tell them what people were, so I was looking at the social media piece of it. When a video posted in, it blew up. The first Auger Plate video they did had over, 15,000 views in the first 30 days. That told me that, whoa, middle school teachers are having a hard time demonstrating how to do that. So I wanted to communicate that to the graduate student. Hey, do some more stuff with the Auger Plates. People we wanted to keep informed, program managers, the graduate student mentors, the people that were managing the graduate students who are making these fabulous videos, our website designers. The people who give us the materials for the supplies and put together our boxes for the teachers, yes, I wanted to have them be involved, but I didn't need as much impact with them, time with them. Okay, we've got our program map, we've got our stakeholder map, now we need our evaluation questions. So what is it that we want to know, and what do we want to do with that information? So I love this one. How will more Twitter followers help us reach our target outcomes? This made me think about hands-on. Why don't we just let the evaluators figure that, right? That is our job, right? But it's more than that, right? We got to spend a minute here and talk about evaluation versus research. So this comes up often, and we have a whole talk, do we not, planned during the conference about the differences between evaluation and research. This is kind of like walking along the edge of a fence. We have this conversation like every day. So what's the relationship between research and evaluation, and why is it important to define? So oftentimes we'll start a project with someone, or they'll come and talk to us and say, hey, we have this really cool thing that we're going to do that's going to be really awesome, and it's going to, yeah, Gabby's smiling, it's going to make like biologists, quantitative biologists, the most important people in the whole entire world. So will we want to research blah, blah, blah? And that is really cool, because you are furthering research in your field. But that's maybe not necessarily what we're here for. So we're here to help you meet your goals and outcomes of your project. And the research that you do to further your field is awesome. But it's not a piece of what our responsibility is. And we may not be in that content. And it's not really effective for us to do that. Now, sometimes there's a gray area, right? So my background is in 20 years, because I started teaching when I was like 11. So I you know, when we get a K-12 project or a K-20 or anything with STEM, my heart beats fast, and you better believe I would love to do some research. But that's maybe not the best role for us to take. So I love this cartoon. This research is really going to help move our field forward. And this evaluation is really going to help the program become more effective. So that's really that fine line. When you're furthering information in your field, that is research. So I thought that was side note in evaluation questions. So here's our hands-on program again. Evaluation questions. And begin by thinking about the stakeholders that we've already defined and we've already thought about. We've already begun with the end in mind. So in this case, one of our stakeholder groups were the hands-on teachers, and we were interested in to what extent do they participate with hands-on the Facebook page. And we had defined the ways in which we were going to measure that. Do they find them useful? There were many ways that we could measure that. And which platforms do they use most? I'm losing my Beyonce mic again. Okay, and then we had our graduate students who were making the videos. And we wondered, do they receive appropriate information and training regarding their roles in the project? And did the hands-on graduate students become involved in planning the videos? So these are just two samples. Notice I'm not furthering the field of microbiology or food safety, education, or food technology, and none of that, right? Okay, sharing the results. Pam mentioned that. In sharing your results, I have this cartoon that I really, really love, and it's by a data visualization person named Cole Naflick. And she created this graphic that I think communicates well to somebody's question I heard earlier about disseminating information or communicating information. So you're going to share your results, you may share results in a variety of different ways. And she has something she calls the slideument. And so when you are high in the amount of control that you have, I'm standing here talking to you live and in person, and I'm sharing some results from the hands-on program. I don't need a lot of detail, right? I've got my slides. I'm saying a few words. I could hand you an evaluation report later that's 25 pages. I could hand you a 2-page summary, but I'm here in person. So I have a lot of control now on what information you get because I'm sharing it with you. So, but sometimes I have very low control over what you are going to do when you get the information. So I need a high amount of detail. You know, maybe I'm emailing you an evaluation report, right? And I want it to have some visuals and I want it to look great. But I can't control if you're checking your Facebook page while you're reading it. I can't control if you read the first paragraph and then flip through the graphs. So consider that. And Pam is going to do a great data visualization. Woo, woo, breakout session on Friday. So this is a teaser. But things you want to consider. Who, what, and so what. So who are you going to communicate the results of your evaluation project to? What's your audience going to be? And what does it mean to you? That's why I have you there. So you need some sort of ownership in it to be an effective communicator. What do you want to say? What action do you want the people to take when they get your report? Do you want them to say, do you want to communicate urgency? Do you want to communicate the summary closing? Do you want to communicate pathways for increased sustainability? What's your tone? The sky is falling? Is that your tone? Yeah. You guys rock. This is the best program ever. And then what's your story? So telling a story, like Pam told with the hanging man, captures your audience. Okay, so all of those things can come out of your report. Okay, and you want to visualize your data meaningfully. And I can't say that enough. So I love this quote. This cartoon here on the right, where it says, we used to have only 1 or 2 ugly visuals in our reports. But then we heard how important it can be, and so now we have an ugly visual on every page. So remember, slide your mints, right? What is your level of control? How much information do you need to make sure those are meaningful? And we'll have a breakout session again to discuss that. And then I love this one too. It says, this is from our webinar. When we said we wanted you to visualize the data, this isn't what we meant. Don't put clothes on the numbers. Okay, sharing your results. I heard this eating breakfast this morning about visualization. I hear this often. I'm not a visual person. I don't think I am either. Like, I'm a crafty girl, but I'm not an artist. But my audience is more likely a visual person. So there are tools that Pam will share with you and that will help you be a visual person to help engage your audience, right? And then I love this one too. I'm not a visual person, so I'll deliver my report in a song. Hit it, boys. Yeah. So there's different ways to think about sharing your results. You could do interpretive dance. You could. Okay, that's later. Lou will dance for us. Okay, so but I wanted to leave you with some resources, and this will be posted on our website. These are some favorites, places we like to go for information. Great free resources, great templates for logic models, and there are free videos on better evaluation that I love to watch if I need a little information about something. Pam mentioned, for example, utilization-focused evaluation. Michael Patton, he has many videos on better evaluation that are just 10 or 15 minutes fun to watch. Okay, and then, as I wrap up, we talked about when to start. We talked about mapping, and we looked at 2 examples, a logic model, a theory of change model, and how they can be the same or different. We talked about the importance of engaging stakeholders and defining evaluation questions, and then different ways to share your results. So I thought I'd end with this one that tickles me. Hey guys, did you read this part? It basically says we need an evaluation to keep getting money. Okay, do you have any questions?